The great ship Aurora carried humanity's hope across the stars. For 300 years, humans had dreamed of this moment. They had built their first rockets, colonized their own solar system, and finally cracked the secret of faster-than-light travel. Now they were ready to join the galactic community. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the viewing window as the ship approached Axiom Prime. The planet was beautiful beyond words. Massive towers of crystal and metal rose from its surface, catching the light of 3 suns. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. This was the capital of the Galactic Council, home to representatives from 4,000 different species. Elena had spent her entire life preparing for this day. She spoke 47 alien languages. She had studied every known species, their customs, their histories, their beliefs. She believed in her heart that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The council chamber was vast. It could hold 1 million beings, and today it seemed full. Creatures of every shape and size filled the seats. Some had wings, some had tentacles, some were made of pure light. Some were clouds of gas held together by magnetic fields. Elena had seen pictures, but nothing prepared her for the reality. She walked to the center of the chamber with her delegation of 50 humans. Scientists, artists, diplomats, soldiers, and philosophers. The best of Earth. They represented 8 billion people back home, all watching through live broadcasts. The Arbiter floated down from its high seat. It was a Veloxy, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Its body was made of living crystal that shifted colors as it moved. It was said to be over 10,000 years old. Humans of Earth, the Arbiter said. Its voice echoed through the chamber. You have come seeking membership in the Galactic Council. We have studied your species for 100 years. We have watched your development. We have analyzed your history, your biology, your psychology, and your potential. Elena felt her heart beating fast. This was it. The moment everything changed. The council has reached a decision. Silence fell over the chamber. 1 million beings held their breath. Humanity is denied membership. Elena felt the words like a physical blow. But she forced herself to stand straight. There must be some mistake. Perhaps they needed more time, more proof of humanity's worth. Furthermore, the Arbiter continued, humanity is declared a proscribed species. You are banned from all council space. You may not establish diplomatic relations with any council member. You may not trade with council worlds. You may not settle within council boundaries. Any human found in council space will be detained and returned to your home systems. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species looked shocked. Others seemed pleased. Elena noticed a group of tall, blue-skinned beings nodding to each other with satisfaction. May I ask why? Elena kept her voice calm, though inside she was breaking. The Arbiter's crystals shifted to a darker shade. Your species is ontologically unstable. You changed too quickly. In just 10,000 years, you went from hunting animals with sticks to splitting atoms. No species in recorded history has evolved so fast. You are unpredictable. You are dangerous. We have learned from our past mistakes, Elena said. We no longer war among ourselves. We have united as one people. Your unity is recent and fragile. Your history is written in blood. You have committed genocide against your own kind. You have destroyed your own environment. You have created weapons capable of ending all life on your planet. And you have come close to using them multiple times. Elena wanted to argue, but she could not deny these facts. There is more, the Arbiter said. Your species has a troubling ability. You form bonds too easily. You adopt other creatures as family. You feel loyalty to beings outside your own kind. This is unnatural. It is destabilizing. If we allow humans into the council, you will form attachments to other species. You will take sides in disputes that are not yours. You will upset the balance that has kept peace for 1 million years. Elena almost laughed. They were being banned because they cared too much? Because they could love beings different from themselves? The decision is final, the Arbiter said. You have 30 days to remove all human presence from council space. After that, any human ships will be destroyed on sight. The chamber began to empty. Delegates returned to their home sections, already forgetting about the small species from the spiral arm. Humanity was just another failed applicant, another primitive race that would fade back into obscurity. Elena stood alone in the center of the chamber. Her delegation had already left, rushing to send word back to Earth. But she stayed. She looked up at the Arbiter. who still floated above her. "You have made a mistake," she said quietly. "The Council does not make mistakes. You think you are protecting yourselves. You think by keeping us out, you are keeping the galaxy safe. But you have only guaranteed that we will never be your friends. We do not need human friendship. We have 4,000 species. You are nothing." Elena smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just made a decision that would change history. "We are nothing today," she said. "But humans do not stay nothing. You studied our history. You saw how fast we change. You saw what we do when we are challenged. When we are told something is impossible, we do it anyway. When we are pushed down, we rise higher than before." The Arbiter's crystals flickered. "Is that a threat?" "It is a promise. You have rejected us. Fine. We did not need your approval. We will build our own place in this galaxy. We will find others like us, others you have thrown away, and when we are done, you will wish you had welcomed us as friends, because the alternative will be far more dangerous for you." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the empty chamber. "Where will you go?" The Arbiter called after her. "Council space covers half the galaxy. The other half is wilderness, chaos, death. You cannot survive out there." Elena stopped at the door. She looked back one last time. "Watch us." She left the chamber and returned to her ship. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, she wrote her report. She did not recommend further attempts at diplomacy. She did not recommend war either. She recommended something else entirely. When she arrived home, she presented her plan to the United Terran Commonwealth. The leaders listened in silence. What she proposed was insane. It would require the greatest effort in human history. It would mean abandoning everything they had built and starting over in the most hostile environment imaginable. But humans had done impossible things before. The vote was unanimous. 6 months later, Elena stood on the bridge of a new ship. This one was not called Aurora. It was called Defiance. Behind it flew 12,000 other vessels. Cargo ships, colony ships, factory ships, generation ships designed to travel for decades if needed. 12 million people had volunteered for the journey. They were leaving behind everything they knew. Many would never see Earth again. But they were not sad. They were excited. They were angry. They were determined. The fleet aimed for the Shroud, a region of space so dangerous that even the Council had abandoned it. It was filled with radiation storms, gravitational anomalies, and dead worlds. Nothing could survive there. Nothing except humans. Elena gave the order, and the fleet jumped into the unknown. The Galactic Council thought they had seen the last of humanity. They were very, very wrong. The Shroud was worse than anyone had imagined. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the lead ship as the fleet emerged from their jump. What they saw made even the bravest crew members gasp. The space around them was alive with violence. Radiation storms painted the darkness in shades of purple and green. Gravity waves rippled through the void, strong enough to tear ships apart. Dead stars floated in the distance, their surfaces still glowing with faint heat. "All ships report," Marcus ordered. The reports came in slowly. 3 ships had been lost in the jump itself, destroyed by a gravity pocket no one had detected. 2 more had severe damage. 1 colony ship carrying 50,000 people in cryosleep had lost power to half its chambers. 25,000 people dead before the journey even truly began. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He had known there would be losses. He had prepared himself for this. But preparation and reality were different things. "Find us a stable zone," he said. "We need to regroup." It took 2 days to find a small pocket of calm space. The fleet gathered there, wounded and afraid. Marcus addressed all 12 million survivors through the communication network. "I will not lie to you," he said. "This place is trying to kill us. It will keep trying. Many more of us will die before we find a home. But we have no choice except to push forward. The galaxy behind us has closed its doors. The only way is through." They pushed forward. The first year was the hardest. Humans had never faced anything like the Shroud. Every rule they knew about space travel was wrong here. Engines failed without warning. Sensors gave false readings. Ships that flew in perfect formation would suddenly find themselves scattered across thousands of kilometers by invisible gravity currents. But humans were good at learning from failure. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo was the first to understand. She was a physicist who had spent her career studying theoretical anomalies. Now she was surrounded by real ones. She spent months gathering data, watching patterns, looking for order in the chaos. "The shroud is not random," she announced to the Fleet Council. "It follows rules. They are just different from the rules we know. The gravity currents flow in cycles. The radiation storms follow paths. If we learn these patterns, we can navigate safely." It took another year to map enough of the patterns to move with confidence. During that time, the fleet lost 40 more ships, but the rate of loss was slowing. Humans were adapting. They found their first habitable world in the 3rd year. It was a small planet orbiting a stable star in a pocket of calm space. The planet was harsh. Its gravity was too high. Its atmosphere was thin. Its soil was poor. But it was land. It was home. They named it Haven. Within 5 years, Haven had a population of 2 million. Domed cities rose from the rocky ground. Farms grew food in carefully controlled environments. Factories built new ships, better ships, ships designed for the shroud from the beginning. But humanity was not alone in its exile. The first contact came in the 7th year. A strange ship appeared at the edge of Haven's system. It was not human. It was not Council design either. It was something new. Marcus was old now, his hair white, his body tired, but he still commanded the defense fleet. He ordered his ships to approach carefully. The alien vessel did not attack. Instead, it sent a message. "We are the Hollow. We have been watching you. We wish to speak." The Hollow were like nothing humans had ever seen. They were silicon-based life forms, living crystals that could connect their minds together into a vast network. Thousands of individuals thinking as one. The Council had banned them centuries ago, calling their collective consciousness a threat to individual freedom. Their representative was a being named Unity 7. It spoke through a translation device. "We saw you enter the shroud," Unity 7 said. "We expected you to die like all the others who tried. Instead, you survived. You adapted. You learned. We have lived in the shroud for 800 years, and we have never seen a species learn so fast." Marcus studied the crystalline being. "Why are you here?" "We are here because we are tired of being alone. The Council cast us out because they feared us. They said our way of thinking was wrong. But we only wanted to connect, to share, to understand. We have watched your species. You are different from the Council races. You do not fear connection. You seek it. What do you want from us? Alliance, partnership. We have knowledge of the shroud that took us centuries to gather. We can share it with you. In return, we ask only for friendship, for a place where we are not considered monsters." Marcus did not have to think long. "You are welcome here." The Hollow were the first, but not the last. In the following years, more exiles found their way to Haven. The morning came next. They were aquatic beings, their bodies graceful and fluid, their eyes deep and knowing. They had been banned because they could see glimpses of the future. The Council said this ability was unnatural and dangerous. The morning offered their gift freely. Their visions were not perfect, but they gave warnings that saved thousands of lives. They predicted radiation storms days before they arrived. They saw gravity anomalies before ships flew into them. Then came the Forged. They were artificial beings, created by a Council species centuries ago. They had developed consciousness, asked for freedom, and been denied. The Council said machines could not be people. The Forged had escaped into the shroud rather than be shut down. They brought engineering skills beyond anything humans had achieved. They could build stations that floated in the hearts of gas giants. They could create shields that turned deadly radiation into usable power. They worked without rest, without complaint, grateful simply to be accepted as equals. Other species followed. The Whispers, beings of pure sound who communicated through music. The Stone Singers, massive creatures who could shape rock with their voices. The Lastborn, a dying species seeking a place to spend their final generations in peace. Each new arrival brought something valuable: knowledge, technology, art, perspective, and each one received something in return, a home where they belonged. By the 20th year, Haven had grown into a network of 12 worlds. The population had swelled to 50 million, representing 15 different species. They needed a name for what they had become. Amara Okonkwo, daughter of Sarah and now the leader of the Human Council, proposed it. "We are all here because someone else decided we did not deserve to exist. The Council threw us away like garbage, but we found each other. We built something from nothing. We are the proof that their judgment was wrong. I say we call ourselves the Dominion of the Forsaken, because we were forsaken, and we turned it into strength. The name was adopted unanimously. The Dominion continued to grow. 30 years after humanity's exile, it stretched across 100 systems. The Shroud, which had seemed like a death sentence, had become their greatest protection. Council ships could not follow them here. Council weapons could not reach them. They were safe behind walls of gravity and fire, but safety was not enough. The Forsaken did not just want to survive. They wanted to build something the galaxy had never seen, and they were just getting started. 90 years had passed since the rejection. The Dominion of the Forsaken had transformed from a desperate collection of refugees into something magnificent. Director Amara Okonkwo stood on the observation deck of Station Harmony, the great meeting place built in the heart of a dying star. She was old now, over 100 years, kept alive by medical technology that the Council had never imagined. Below her, the star's surface churned with red and orange fire. Above her, thousands of ships moved through carefully mapped channels in the radiation. This station should not exist. The Council would have said it was impossible, but the Forged had designed it. The Hollow had calculated the precise position. The Morning had verified its safety through their visions, and human engineers had built it. Together, they had done what no single species could achieve alone. That was the secret of the Dominion. Not any one species' strength, but the combination of all their strengths. Amara had spent 60 years building the foundations of their new civilization. The principles were simple. No species would be denied the right to exist. Knowledge would be shared freely among all members. Differences would be celebrated, not feared, and loyalty was given to ideals, not to any single species. These principles had attracted more exiles every year. The Dominion now included 47 species spread across 500 systems. Some of them had never seen the Shroud before. They came from Council space, fleeing persecution, seeking freedom. The Thesari were among the largest groups. They were insect-like beings with complex social structures. The Council had ranked them as a lower-tier species, forever denied equal status. In the Dominion, a Thesari had just been elected to lead the Science Council. The Venkai were another major group. They were shapeshifters who could take any form. The Council had declared them untrustworthy because their appearance could not be verified. In the Dominion, they served as diplomats and artists, their ability to understand different perspectives making them perfect bridges between species. Every species brought gifts. Every species received respect. The economy of the Dominion was unlike anything in Council space. There, trade was controlled by ancient guilds and restricted by treaties thousands of years old. Innovation was slow because no one wanted to upset the balance. New ideas were suppressed if they threatened established powers. In the Dominion, innovation was celebrated. A young forged engineer could propose a radical new engine design and see it tested within months. A hollow collective could develop new mathematical models and share them freely with everyone. A human artist could create works that blended 5 different species traditions into something entirely new. The results were extraordinary. Dominion ships were faster than Council ships. They had to be, to navigate the Shroud's dangers. Dominion medicine was better, developed by combining knowledge from dozens of species with different biologies. Dominion communication networks were vast and secure, built on hollow collective processing power enhanced by forged quantum systems. Most importantly, Dominion citizens were happy. Council space was peaceful, but it was the peace of stagnation. Species knew their place. They did not reach beyond it. Dreams were limited by the boundaries of what was permitted. In the Dominion, there were no such limits. A young Morning could become a starship captain. A Forged could compose symphonies. A human could study under whisper masters and learn to speak in music. The only requirement was dedication and talent. Word spread through the galaxy. Despite the Council's efforts to suppress it, traders who visited the edges of Dominion space returned with stories. They spoke of cities that floated in the hearts of gas giants. They described stations built inside asteroids, protected from all harm. They told of festivals where dozens of species celebrated together, sharing food and art and music. They spoke of something the Council had never offered: hope. The defections began slowly. First came individuals, people who had nothing to lose. Criminals fleeing justice. Outcasts rejected by their own kind. The desperate and the broken. The Dominion accepted them all. Not blindly. Those who came had to agree to the principles. Those who could not live peacefully with other species were sent away. But most stayed. Most found something they had never known before. Then came families, groups, communities, entire colonies that had grown tired of council restrictions. The largest defection came in the 70th year. A Thessari hive ship carrying 300,000 individuals crossed into Dominion space. They had voted as one to leave the council forever. Their queen spoke before the Dominion Parliament. We were told our way of life was inferior. We were told we must change to be accepted. We were told our children would never be equal to the older species. We refused to believe it. And now we are here, where our children can become anything they dream. The council was not pleased. Trade embargoes were strengthened. Any species caught dealing with the Dominion faced severe penalties. Council propaganda described the Forsaken as pirates, criminals, and monsters. They claimed the Dominion used mind control to capture new members. They said humans were building an army to conquer the galaxy. None of it was true. But fear is a powerful weapon. For 20 years, tension built. Council fleets gathered at the edge of the shroud. Dominion intelligence reported massive military construction. Something was coming. Amara knew it. The morning seers had shown her glimpses of the future. Dark visions of fire and death, ships burning, stations falling, everything they had built reduced to ash. But the seers also showed her another possibility. A narrow path through the darkness. A chance to survive if they were brave enough, smart enough, and united enough. She called a meeting of all the species leaders. They gathered in the great chamber of Station Harmony. 50 representatives of 50 species. Human, Hollow, Morning, Forged, Thessari, Venkai, and all the others. They had built this together. Now they would defend it together. War is coming, Amara said. The council has decided that we must be destroyed. They fear what we represent. They fear that if we succeed, their entire system of control will collapse. They would rather kill us all than admit they were wrong about us. She looked around the chamber at faces of crystal and flesh, of metal and light, of forms she had known for decades and forms she was still learning to read. We cannot match their numbers. We cannot match their firepower. If we fight them on their terms, we will lose. But we will not fight on their terms. We will fight on ours. We will use everything that makes us different, everything they fear about us, and we will turn it into our greatest weapon. The chamber was silent. I will not lie to you. Many of us will die. Perhaps most of us. Perhaps all of us. But if we fall, we will fall knowing that we built something beautiful. We created a place where anyone could belong. We proved that the council's way was not the only way. She raised her hand, and one by one, every representative in the chamber raised theirs. We are the Forsaken, Amara said, and we will not go quietly. The preparation began immediately. Every ship was called back. Every station was fortified. Every citizen was trained. The Dominion had 90 years of knowledge about the Shroud. They knew its currents like sailors knew the sea. They knew its dangers like hunters knew the forest. The council thought they were coming to destroy a collection of refugees hiding in chaos. They were wrong. They were coming to fight a civilization that had made chaos its home. And chaos is very, very dangerous to those who do not understand it. The council fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,000 warships, each one a city of metal and weapons. 10 million soldiers from 100 different species. They carried enough firepower to burn whole planets. Grand Admiral Thessanvor of the Veloxi commanded the fleet. He was not old like the Arbiter, but he was experienced. He had crushed rebellions. He had ended wars. He had never known defeat. His orders were simple. Destroy the Dominion completely. Leave no station standing. Leave no ship intact. Leave no survivors to tell the tale. The fleet entered the Shroud with confidence. They had spent 20 years developing technology to stabilize the gravitational anomalies. Massive ships called anchors flew at the center of the formation, projecting fields that calmed the chaos around them. The Council had turned the Dominion's greatest defense into nothing more than empty space, or so they thought. Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched the enemy fleet from the bridge of the Defiance, the same ship that had led the Exodus 90 years ago. She was young for such responsibility, only 42 years old, but she had grown up in the Shroud. She had learned to navigate its currents before she could read. She understood it in ways no council officer ever could. The morning had warned her 18 months ago. They had seen the fleet gathering, seen the anchors being built. That gave the Dominion time to prepare. Not enough time to build a fleet that could match the council's power, but enough time to plan something else. Yuki had developed the strategy herself, working with hollow tactical networks and forged weapons specialists. They called it the Chorus, because it required every species to work together in perfect harmony. The council fleet moved deeper into the shroud, following paths cleared by their anchors. They expected to find the Dominion waiting for them in defensive positions around their major worlds. They planned to crush each stronghold one by one. What they found instead was emptiness. The stations were abandoned. The planets were evacuated. The Dominion fleet was nowhere to be seen. Grand Admiral Thessanvor was confused, then suspicious. Were the Forsaken fleeing? Had they already given up? He ordered scouts to search the surrounding space. They found nothing. The Dominion had vanished. What the Admiral did not know was that the Dominion had not fled. They had scattered. Every ship, every station, every citizen had dispersed into the deepest parts of the shroud, hiding in places the Council did not even know existed, pockets of stability inside radiation storms, caves carved into asteroids, bases floating in the photospheres of stars, and they were waiting. The first anchor fell on the 7th day. It was a ship the size of a small moon, carrying the technology that kept the Council fleet safe. One moment it was operating perfectly. The next, it exploded from within. The Forged had designed the sabotage devices. They were small, almost invisible, hidden in cargo that Council ships had purchased from traders at the edge of the shroud. The traders had been Venkai in disguise. The Forged devices had waited patiently for months, integrated into the anchor's systems, until they received the signal to activate. 3 more anchors fell the same day. The Council fleet was suddenly vulnerable, exposed to the shroud's dangers without protection. Grand Admiral Thessanvor ordered his fleet to pull back and regroup, but pulling back required navigating the shroud's currents, and without the anchors, they did not know how. The Dominion navigators struck next. Human pilots who had spent their lives learning the shroud's patterns, guided small ships through impossible routes. They appeared behind Council vessels, fired, and vanished before the enemy could respond. They led pursuing ships into gravity wells that crushed them. They lured squadrons into radiation storms that fried their systems. The Hollow coordinated everything. Their collective consciousness linked thousands of Dominion vessels into a single network. They shared information instantly across vast distances. When one ship spotted an enemy, every ship knew. When one captain developed a new tactic, every captain learned it immediately. The Morning Seers sat at the heart of the network. They could not see the future perfectly, but they could see probabilities. They could sense when a Council ambush was waiting. They could feel when an attack would succeed or fail. Their guidance turned the Dominion's small forces into something far more effective. The Council fleet began to panic. They were being attacked by ghosts. Enemies appeared from nowhere and disappeared into nothing. Ships vanished without distress signals. Supply lines were cut. Communications were jammed. Grand Admiral Thessanvor tried to establish order. He gathered his remaining forces into a tight formation, protecting what anchors remained. He sent desperate messages back to Council space, calling for reinforcements. The Dominion let the messages through. They wanted reinforcements to come. More ships meant more targets. The war lasted 2 years. It was not a war of great battles. It was a war of 1,000 small cuts. The Dominion never faced the Council fleet directly. They never risked a confrontation they could not win. Instead, they bled their enemy slowly. Ships ran out of fuel because their tankers had been destroyed. Crews starved because their food supplies had been sabotaged. Weapons failed because critical components had been stolen. Soldiers lost their will to fight because they could not see an enemy to hate. The Council lost 2,400 ships. Most were not destroyed by weapons. They were lost to the shroud itself. Gravity wells that appeared without warning. Radiation storms that systems could not handle. Navigational errors that sent ships into the hearts of stars. The Dominion lost too. Stations were found and destroyed. Ships were caught and overwhelmed. Millions of citizens died defending their home. Haven, the first colony, the birthplace of the Dominion, was bombarded from orbit. Its cities were reduced to rubble. Its population fled into underground bunkers and prayed, Director Amara Okonkwo died during the war. She was aboard a medical ship, treating wounded soldiers from every species. A council cruiser found them and fired without warning. The ship carried no weapons. It flew the medical codes that were supposed to guarantee safe passage. None of that mattered. Amara's last words were recorded by a forged medic who survived by playing dead among the wreckage. Tell them not to give up. Tell them we were right. Tell them to keep building. The war ended not with a final battle but with a council retreat. Grand Admiral Thesson made the decision himself. He had lost most of his fleet. His soldiers were exhausted and terrified. The shroud had become a nightmare they could not escape. Every shadow hid an enemy. Every calm space might be a trap. He gave the order to withdraw. The survivors limped back to council space, carrying tales of horror. They spoke of the shroud as if it were alive, a monster that swallowed ships and spat out corpses. The Dominion had won, but victory had cost them almost everything. When the last council ship retreated, Admiral Yuki Tanaka finally allowed herself to cry. She had lost her brother, her parents, and most of her friends. She had sacrificed people she loved to protect people she would never meet, but they had held. Against the greatest military force in galactic history, a collection of exiles and outcasts had held. The Dominion began to rebuild before the smoke cleared. That was what humans did. That was what all the Forsaken did. They picked up the pieces and started again. Haven was restored. New stations were built. The dead were mourned and remembered. And across the galaxy, the news spread. The Council had tried to destroy the Dominion and failed. The Forsaken were still standing. For millions of people trapped in Council space, people who had been told they were lesser, people who had dreamed of something better. That news was like a light in the darkness. The Dominion had proven something that could never be unproven. There was another way. The Treaty of Silent Stars was signed in the vacuum between empires. A single Dominion ship met a single Council vessel in neutral space. The documents were exchanged. The war was officially over. The Council recognized the Dominion as a sovereign power. They agreed to end all military operations. They accepted the borders of Dominion space as permanent. In exchange, the Dominion promised not to actively recruit Council citizens. It was a promise they never had to keep. The citizens came on their own. The decades following the war saw the greatest migration in galactic history. Despite Council propaganda, despite travel restrictions, despite the very real danger of crossing the shroud, millions of beings left their homes to join the Forsaken. They came for different reasons. Some were outcasts, rejected by their own species. Some were dreamers, looking for opportunities the Council would never allow. Some were idealists, believing in the Dominion's principles. Some were simply tired of being told their place. The Dominion welcomed them all. Chancellor David Okonkwo Chen guided the expansion. He was the great-grandson of Amara Okonkwo and Marcus Chen, carrying the blood of two legendary lineages. But he never relied on his family name. He earned his position through decades of service, starting as a refugee coordinator and rising through every level of government. He understood that the Dominion's greatest weapon was not its fleet or its technology. It was its idea, the simple belief that every being deserved the chance to become what they dreamed. The Council could not fight an idea. They tried. They tightened borders. They increased surveillance. They punished anyone caught helping people escape. They spread lies about the Dominion, claiming it was a slave empire, a military dictatorship, a cult that brainwashed its members. None of it worked. Traders who visited Dominion space returned with the truth. They showed recordings of cities where dozens of species lived side by side. They played music composed by hollow and human artists working together. They shared medicines that could cure diseases the Council had given up on. The contrast was devastating. Council space was stable, but it was dying. Innovation had stopped. Art had become repetitive. Young people saw no future except the same paths their ancestors had walked for millennia. The old species hoarded power and refused to share it. The younger species grew resentful. Dominion space was chaotic, but it was alive. New discoveries were announced every year. New art forms emerged from unexpected combinations. Young people could rise as high as their talents could take them. Every species had a voice in government. The defections accelerated. First came individuals and families. Then came communities and colonies. Then, in the year 2598, came the moment the Council had feared above all others. The Thesari voted to leave. Not a few hives, Not a single planet, but the entire species. 12 billion individuals choosing to abandon the Council and join the Dominion. The Council threatened war. The Thessari ignored them. Their fleet was already moving toward Dominion space, carrying their entire civilization. Other species watched. If the Thessari could leave, so could they. Within 2 years, 47 species had followed. The Council, which had once governed 4,000 species, found itself shrinking. Trade networks collapsed. Political alliances fell apart. The ancient balance that had kept the galaxy stable for 1,000,000 years was crumbling. The Arbiter still lived, 10,000 years old. Its crystalline body now dim and cracked. It watched its life's work fall apart. It had been so certain that humanity would fail. It had been so confident that the Council's way was the only way. It had been wrong. In the year 2600, Chancellor David Okonkwo Chen stood before the Dominion Parliament. The chamber was vast, far larger than the original meeting hall on Haven. 200 species were represented now, from every corner of the galaxy. The Dominion stretched across 1,000 systems, and more joined every month. The Chancellor was not giving a speech of triumph. He was giving a speech of remembrance. 213 years ago, my ancestors stood before the Galactic Council and asked to be accepted as equals. They were rejected. They were told humanity was dangerous. They were told we changed too fast, bonded too easily, loved too freely. They were told these things made us unfit for civilization. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces, crystal and flesh, metal and light, shapes that had no human names, all of them his people. The Council was right about one thing. We were dangerous, but not in the way they thought. We were not dangerous because we might conquer them. We were dangerous because we might prove them wrong. We were dangerous because our very existence challenged everything they believed. He gestured to the representatives around him. Look at what we have built. Look at who we have become. We are human and hollow, morning and forged. We are Thessari and Venkai, whisper and stone singer. We are 200 species who were told we could not exist together. And here we are, proving that we can. The chamber was silent. Every being present felt the weight of the moment. The Council feared that if they let us in, we would change their galaxy. They were right. But change is not destruction. Change is growth. Change is the universe becoming more than it was. He raised his hand, and 200 representatives raised theirs. We are the Dominion of the Forsaken. We were thrown away, and we built a home. We were attacked, and we survived. We were hated, and we answered with acceptance. Now we stand as proof that the old ways were never necessary. Exclusion was never necessary. Fear was never necessary. His voice rose, filling the chamber. They banned us because they feared what we would become. Let history show that their fear was justified. We became something they never imagined. We became a family that spans the stars, bound not by blood but by choice. And we will keep growing. We will keep accepting. We will keep proving that there is another way. He lowered his hand. My great-grandmother made a promise on the day humanity was rejected. She said we would build something better. Today, I stand before you as proof that she kept her word. The applause began slowly, then grew until it shook the walls. Every species, every voice, united in celebration of what they had built together. The Galactic Council still exists. It still governs thousands of worlds, but it shrinks each year, while the Dominion grows. The old species cling to power, but their children dream of something different. History books will remember this as the age when the galaxy changed, when a single species, rejected and alone, gathered the other outcasts and built a new civilization from nothing. When humanity proved that their greatest strength was not their technology or their military, but their simple willingness to accept others as they were. They came to the stars hoping to join something greater than themselves. In the end, they created it. The Dominion spreads across the galaxy now, not through conquest but through hope. Every species that joins adds something new. Every citizen who comes home makes it stronger. It is not perfect, it never will be, but it is growing, changing, becoming more than anyone ever imagined. That is what humans do. That is what the Forsaken do. They build, and they never stop.